eliminating meat, sugar, dairy, refined grains. The other is taking herbs or vitamins that these patients believed would help them fight the cancer. Now remember, your body is your business, and you too can be proactive about optimizing your body's chance for a positive health outcome. So I want to be very clear that when I tell you stories about patients like Stomatis or Marla, I'm not suggesting ditch Western medicine. A few years back, my husband Matt cut 2 fingers off his left hand with a table saw. Now, thank God for Dr. Jonathan Jones, who painstakingly spent 8 hours in the operating room sewing together under a microscope every artery, nerve, and bone in Matt's fingers, so he has 10 fingers today. As much as I believe in the body's ability to repair itself from many chronic diseases, honestly, there's no amount of mind-body medicine that would have put those fingers back on. So keep in mind that when I'm telling you stories about people like Stomatis and Marla, I'm talking about patients for whom Western medicine had no simple cure. So while I'm not suggesting that you skip Western medicine, I do want you to realize that your body is your business because you are the gatekeeper of your mind. You are responsible for your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, which are critical when it comes to your health. Now, the scientific data proves that your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings affect the physiology of your body more profoundly than you may realize. Now, I get that that's a big statement. But think of it this way. You wouldn't take a pill with a skull and crossbones on it, right? But I want you to understand that every negative thought that you have is poison for your body. Every pessimistic thought, every negative health belief, every angry feeling, every time you feel lonely or resentful or depressed, if you're stressed at work or unhappy in your marriage, you're potentially harming your body. And every time you think optimistically or feel supported by a community of people or you get in touch with your life's purpose or your spiritual self, you're healing your body. This is a huge part of how you can be proactive about taking back your health. However, many patients experience what Martin Seligman calls learned helplessness. They feel like helpless victims of bad luck or bad genes. But in research studies, this passive state has been proven to harm your health, while being proactive improves your chance of cure. Next, I'll be teaching you how to be the gatekeeper of your mind, so that your mind heals rather than harms your body.
Wow, what a powerful idea, using your mind as a tool to heal your body.
So just to review, your body is your business, and it's your responsibility to be proactive about your health, not just by eating a nutritious diet, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, and taking advantage of what Western medicine has to offer, but by protecting your mind from self-sabotaging thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that can predispose you to illness. It's also your responsibility to fill your mind with the kinds of positive thoughts that are good medicine for your body. As we discussed, spontaneous remissions are possible, and they're not just flukes. You have at least some influence over whether or not your body repairs itself. In this segment of our program, we're going to be teaching you the secret to how you can optimize your body's chance for spontaneous remission. But first, let's start with something you've all heard about, which is powerful, powerful medicine, the placebo effect. So, can the mind really heal the body? The answer is yes. The medical establishment has been proving that the mind can heal the body for over 50 years. We call it the placebo effect. Since the 1950s, we've been proving that 18 to 80% of the time, on average it's about 30%, when patients are in clinical trials and they're given sugar pills, saline injections, or fake surgeries, they get better. And the clinical improvement isn't just in the mind. Patients taking placebos have been found to have ulcers that healed, warts that disappeared, cells that repaired themselves. The bald men in the Rogaine trials who got placebos even grew hair. something about placebos makes people's bodies heal at least a percentage of the time, even though they're not getting conventional medical treatment. Well, let me give you an example of the placebo effect in action. This story is from a 1957 case study reported in the medical literature. So Dr. West was treating Mr. Wright, who had an advanced cancer called lymphosarcoma. All treatments had failed and time was running out. Mr. Wright's neck, chest, abdomen, armpits, and groin were filled with tumors the size of oranges. Dr. West didn't expect him to last a week. But Mr. Wright desperately wanted to live, and he hung his hope on a promising new drug called Krebbiozin, believing that the drug would be his miracle cure. So Dr. West injected him with Krebbiozin on a Friday. To his utter shock, the following Monday, Dr. West found his patient walking around out of bed. Mr. Wright's tumor masses had melted like snowballs on a hot stove, and they were half their original size. 10 days after the first dose of Krebbiozin, Mr. Wright left the hospital, cancer-free. So Mr. Wright was rocking and rolling, praising Krebbiozin as a miracle drug for 2 months, until the scientific literature began reporting that Krebbiozin didn't seem to be so effective. Now, Mr. Wright, who trusted what he read in the literature, fell deep into a depression, and his cancer came back. This time, Dr. West, who genuinely wanted to help save his patient, decided to get sneaky. So he told Mr. Wright that some of the initial supplies of the drug had deteriorated during shipping, making them less effective, but that he had scored a new batch of highly concentrated, ultra-pure Krebbiozin. He was going to give that to him instead. So Dr. West then injected Mr. Wright with nothing but distilled water. And a seemingly miraculous thing happened. Again. And Mr. Wright was feeling great for another 2 months. Then the American Medical Association blew it by announcing that a nationwide study of Krebbiozin proved that the drug was utterly worthless. This time, Mr. Wright lost all faith in his treatment. His cancer came right back, and he died 2 days later. Now, Mr. Wright demonstrates 3 medical phenomena that I want to talk about: spontaneous remission, the placebo effect, and the nocebo effect. So we talked about spontaneous remission with Stomatis and the Spontaneous Remission Project. We talked about placebo effect and how patients in clinical trials getting nothing but sugar pills improve approximately a third of the time. So the placebo effect has an equally powerful opposite, the nocebo effect. When people in clinical trials are given nothing but sugar pills or saline injections, a percentage of them experience the very side effects that they would experience if they were getting the real drug. For example, those getting placebos who believed that they were getting chemotherapy actually vomited and lost their hair. This is an example of the placebo effect's evil twin, the nocebo effect. When you think something will harm you, and then it does. The nocebo effect is just as powerful as the placebo effect. How can the mind heal or harm the body? There's nothing woo-woo about this. It is pure physiology. Now, remember that I said that there's one organ of your body that may be critical to your health and that you may be neglecting it? This organ is your brain. So let me start by giving you a short anatomy lesson about your brain. So there's an almond-shaped part of your primordial limbic brain called the amygdala. And it's the amygdala's job to protect you from danger. While your amygdala lives in your brain, it's not the smart, rational thinking forebrain. It's the fraidy cat, ancient lizard part of your brain. I like to think of your amygdala as one of those little meerkat, like the little prick dogs. And there's always the meerkat sentry that's standing guard on top of the mound, looking out for threats to your safety. Like, there might be a tiger on the loose. So stress is anything that makes the amygdala in your brain feel threatened. So that includes not just getting chased by a tiger, but work stress, or money worries, or relationship struggles. Also feelings of fear, resentment, anger, sadness, pessimism, loneliness, hopelessness, and anxiety. Here's the thing. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between "there's a tiger chasing me" and "nobody loves me," or even "someone just spilled red wine on my white carpet." So you can imagine, when your doctor saddles you with a bad prognosis, how do you think the amygdala reacts? Danger! There's a tiger on the loose. far as the amygdala is concerned, they're all equal threats to life and limb. So stress relief is anything that calms down your amygdala and leaves you feeling relaxed, peaceful, hopeful, optimistic, loved, and nurtured. This is how thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that originate in your mind affect the physiology of the body via the amygdala and how it affects the stress response. So what does this have to do with healing the body? Well, here's the thing. Your body is beautifully equipped with natural self-repair mechanisms that can fight cancer cells, retard aging, and kill infectious agents. But the body's natural self-repair mechanisms are under the influence of the nervous system. So the nervous system has two operating systems. There's the sympathetic nervous system, which some of you might know as fight or flight, and which Walter Cannon at Harvard called the stress response. The other operating system is the parasympathetic nervous system, which Herbert Benson at Harvard called the relaxation response. So when the amygdala feels threatened, it activates the stress response, triggering a whole cascade of stress hormones like cortisol and epinephrine, which are necessary if you're running away from a tiger. But over time, these hormones poison the body. On the other hand, positive thoughts, beliefs, and feelings activate the relaxation response, which is the polar opposite of the stress response. When the relaxation response is elicited, stress hormones drop and health-inducing relaxation hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, nitric oxide, and endorphins are released. So here's the kicker. If you only hear one thing today, this is what I want you to hear, so listen up. When the body is in stress response, the body's natural self-repair mechanisms are disabled. Your natural self-repair mechanisms only function when your body is in relaxation response. This is important. Plus, stress responses harm the body in other ways. Repetitive stress responses impair cognitive performance, suppress thyroid function, lead to blood sugar imbalances, decrease bone density, weaken muscle tissue, raise blood pressure and heart rate, lower your immunity, and strain the heart. So let's look at an example of what happens when you get stressed. So we've got Jody, and Jody's walking down the street. She's listening to her iPod. She's hanging out in a lovely little relaxation response. And all of a sudden, a car comes up on the curb, and it almost hits her. So Jody's running away. Her amygdala is screaming, danger! And suddenly Jody's in stress response, right? Running away from the car, fueled by cortisol and epinephrine. This is good. This is how this is supposed to happen, right? This stress response just saved Jody's life and let her run away from the car. Now, if she were an animal, her amygdala would instantly say, we're safe now. And her stress response would end within 90 seconds. Her body would then go back to repairing itself in her nice little relaxation response. But unfortunately, Jody is a human being. So what does she do? She does what many of us would have done. She runs up to the driver. What were you thinking? Crazy driver, she calls 911. You won't believe what happened. Reckless driver, come arrest him. By this point, she's definitely too stressed to walk back home, so she calls her husband to come pick her up. He's at work, late, again. They have a huge fight. This whole time, she's flooded with stress hormones. And this is what happens. Modern humans experience an average of 50 stress responses per day because we don't know how to get out of fight or flight. It's no wonder modern-day humans wind up so sick. So this is why my patients in Marin County were sick even though they ate well, exercised, and got enough sleep. Now, I'm a huge fan of kale. But the truth is that no amount of kale is going to counterbalance the poisonous effects of chronic repetitive stress responses and all that cortisol and epinephrine that they release. So traditional health habits certainly matter, but perhaps even more important than eating well or exercising is balancing the ratios of stress responses and relaxation responses in your body's nervous system. Now, fortunately, increasing the number of relaxation responses that the body experiences can be easy and pleasurable. The best news is you can learn how to activate this response any time of the day, and I'm going to teach you how in just a few minutes. But first, let me tell you about a Harvard doctor named Herbert Benson. So, back in the 1960s, Dr. Benson studied the stress and relaxation responses in great depth, and developed a technique based on transcendental meditation that is scientifically proven to activate the relaxation response. His well-studied relaxation response technique worked to help heal everything from heart disease to diabetes to chronic pain to ulcers to allergies. It can even help you lose weight. So I want to do this with you. You guys want to learn how to do a relaxation response? Okay, good. So I want you to start by just focusing on your breathing. You can open or close your eyes however you feel comfortable. And just pick one word that resonates with you. Something like peace, or love, or om. And just start breathing slowly and naturally. And as you do, repeat your one word silently on the exhale. Now, as this happens, other thoughts or feelings might come into your mind, and just assume a passive attitude. If you notice your mind wandering, just call it out. Hello, remembering. Hello, planning. And then gently return to your one-word mantra that you're repeating on your exhale. All right, go ahead and open your eyes again. So if you were one of Dr. Benson's patients in one of his studies, he'd have you repeat this process for 10 to 20 minutes, about once or twice per day. Dr. Benson has found that you actually don't even have to close your eyes or sit down in some sort of traditional meditation pose in order for this to be effective. All you have to do is repeat the mantra while passively disregarding thoughts that come to your mind and returning to that repetition, focusing on your breathing. So you can do this while you're exercising, you can do this while making art or cooking or shopping or whatever. So there are other scientifically proven relaxation response activators that you can do on your own, and I'd really like to encourage you to try some of these on your own. So all forms of meditation work. You can even make your own altar, like we have here, as a place to meditate. One of my favorite relaxation response activators is dance. I love to dance, and dancing is a great relaxation for your nervous system. You can pray or attend religious services. You can play with animals. Many of you guys have pets. Try expressing yourself creatively. Laughter is another great one. In The Anatomy of an Illness, Norman Cousins helped heal his ankylosing spondylitis by watching Marx Brothers movies. Other relaxation response activators include yoga, massage, emotional freedom technique, or EFT, which Nick Ortner teaches in his book, The Tapping Solution. There are two other relaxation response activators that I really want you to know about, and I want you to try these for yourself. The first one is not something that you might expect. It's the healing act of generosity. When Cammie Walker was diagnosed with debilitating multiple sclerosis, conventional medicine had little to offer. Then a South African medicine woman suggested that instead of focusing on herself, she needed to shift towards thinking more about others. The medicine woman wrote Cammie a prescription: give 29 gifts in 29 days. So she did. These weren't all presents. On some days, Cammie gave the gift of her time, or the gift of her undivided attention to someone that needed that. And as if by magic, her MS symptoms started to diminish. How did this happen? Because giving activates relaxation responses, which bolsters the body's natural self-repair mechanisms. Andy Mackey is another person whose health benefits from being generous. After 9 heart surgeries, Andy's doctors had him on 15 medications, but the side effects were making him miserable. So he decided to stop all of his medications and spend his remaining days feeling as good as he could. When he told his doctors that he was going to stop his medication, they said that he would likely die within a year. So Andy decided he was going to do something he'd always wanted to do. So he took the money that he would have spent on his heart medications, and he spent it to buy 300 harmonicas. And he gave those harmonicas to kids in public schools. And they came complete with lessons. He went to the schools to teach them. When he didn't die the next month, he bought a few hundred more. So it's now been 11 years and 16,000 harmonicas, and Andy Mackey is still giving generously, living one day at a time. The second relaxation response activator that might surprise you is seeing your doctor or another healing practitioner. The science proves that to say that you can heal yourself is sort of a misnomer. Now, your body can heal itself, but the studies show that your body heals itself much more effectively when you do it with the nurturing support of a true healer. In fact, Harvard researcher Ted Kapchick believes that the doctor may even be the placebo, that the doctor really is the medicine. So the care of a true healer can calm the amygdala, relax the nervous system, and activate the body's natural self-repair. But the opposite can also be true. The doctor can activate the nocebo effect. Now, this is why I'm now training healthcare providers at the Whole Health Medicine Institute to be true healers, so that they can help activate a patient's self-repair mechanisms and be a force for healing rather than harm. We have one of our doctors here, Marnie O'Shea. So, thank you. We need true healers in the world. Yeah. So how can you pick the right healer for yourself? Let me give you 3 tips for choosing the right kind of healer. Now first, I want to encourage you to interview your team. I know that some of you are thinking that this could be a daunting prospect, to either tell your doctor what you need or find a new doctor. But making your body your business is not for the faint of heart. Don't be afraid to make your needs known or to get a second opinion or even to change doctors. If your doctor isn't a calming influence during your healing journey, you need to find somebody else. But trust me, there are so many wonderful doctors out there just looking for a patient like you, so don't give up. Number 2, find healthcare providers with a high degree of empathy and belief in you and your ability to get well. So the studies show that whether or not your doctor believes in your ability to get well actually affects your health outcome. Number 3 is put your body in the hands of providers willing to collaborate, especially if you're inclined to include complementary and alternative healthcare providers as part of your healing team. You want to make sure that everyone plays nicely together in the sandbox, and some people don't do that so well. So now that you know how important it is to activate relaxation responses, I'd like to encourage you to take action. Choose one relaxation response activator that you're going to implement in your life today. So maybe it's Herbert Benson's meditation technique. Maybe it's interviewing a new doctor. Or maybe it's practicing the healing art of generosity. Then get in the habit of picking one thing from this list of relaxation response activators every day. I promise you, you will see some tangible positive changes in your life almost immediately. So in this next segment, I'm going to be teaching you how to use a new wellness model to heal yourself. And you'll also learn tools for reducing stress responses so that you can activate your body's self-repair mechanisms and optimize your chance of spontaneous remission.